So in this part of the demo series, we'll look at ContX IQ, the knowledge queries, in a bit more detail, in a bit more technical detail. We'll look at some code. So we'll start from the knowledge graph we had, and the goal here is to get some knowledge out of it. We've seen a couple of examples in the previous video. In this video, we want to do a query that fetches all the technical documents, not any document, but those that are marked as classified as technical. Now, this is just an example. Of course, we could have retrieved any one of these things, like job codes or whatever, but since we looked at classifiers and types of documents, we'll just use that. So here I'm going to show, first of all, how I define my ContX IQ queries. And there are two things in ContX IQ, in the knowledge queries. The first is to create a policy, and the second thing is to create a query that uses the policy. So we'll look at the policy first. Now, the way to configure this can be configured via the config API, via REST, or using Terraform. I'm using Terraform here because I like it better. I find it easier to look at and manage. REST, you have to escape all the quotes, for example. The usage of our Terraform provider and everything is documented. Look at our developer hub for guidance, but let's have a look at what constitutes a knowledge query. Because we use knowledge-based access control, there are actually two parts in a policy. In any policy within Indicate, first there's a contextual policy. It could be considered like a RBAC, relationship-based access control part. And then there's an attribute part. So together they constitute a knowledge query, a knowledge access policy, a KBAC policy. So the first part here of the condition is a cipher. So we use cipher to express path traversal and path conditions, or context condition. It's open cipher, so it's an open source language. A lot of databases use it. As you can see here, the goal is to go from a subject, that is an account type of a node, to a document, which would be the resource for protecting. Now, this policy is geared towards using an access token as the subject. There's two ways to run a knowledge query. One is to run it as an administrator type, so kind of full access. And for that, you need to provide just a client key, a client agent JAuth key. Otherwise, you need to have a properly logged in user, which is what we do here. When the user logs in with an external identity provider, which is what I'm going to show here, we need to pass in an access token. And this access token, if the user doesn't exist in the database, we create an account node. We do auto provisioning within the knowledge graph. This creates an account node. And then we have an entity matching process that matches this account with the user node. The user node may come from a source such as an HR system or some external source. So we need to match those. So that's what we do here. The entity matching process creates a same as relationship. We've seen that in an earlier video with documents, but the same applies for users and accounts. So here we're saying the logged in user, the one presenting the access token, should be the same as an existing user from HR, of an actual employee, and that user must have some kind of relationship to the document. So here we're looking at member of, if it goes through a group, direct ownership, read, write, or contains, if it's through a folder, and from 1 to 3 hops to a document. So if there's such a path, then there's at least the RBAC condition is satisfied. In addition, we have a couple of attribute level conditions. One pertains to the token. We want to assign the subject of the token to the subject of the account. And the other one, which is the one we're going to look at, is the document topic should be technology. So that's why we want to access all the documents that deal with technology. So here we want to fetch the documents that have greater than 0 number of tokens that pertain to technology. And given these conditions, the things that are allowed, I'm allowing any query to fetch any of these properties here. I'm allowing the relationships to be fetched, and the policy is active. Pretty simple. if we look at a query that uses this policy, it's very simple. We just want to fetch all these properties that are available, essentially. So this looks like so at runtime. At runtime, I can use the execute a REST API in order to call the ContX IQ policy. The query. Here's the name of the query. Now I need to log in first. If I don't log in first, I will get an unauthorized. So in order to log in first and present a proper access token, I'm going to do that with my little demo app here. I am going to restart here and log in. Log in again with Auth0 as an external identity provider. This should give me an access token, and now I can use this access token in the Postman. So if I go to authorization and go here, I can overwrite and now send again. So now as the user, the query fetches from the database all the documents that I have access to and that also pertain to technology. And here's a list of them. And we can see the property names, the titles, where the source is in the source system, and the score. So this one has a score of 90 for technology, 26, and so forth. Now, of course, we could do anything we want with these ContX IQ policies. For example, I could fetch policies that have a negative sentiment or some that are deemed harmful, or I can prevent documents that have some PII or personal information in them. The sky's the limit at this point.